This is a quick video that I'm creating. It is currently August 15th, 2018, and I wanted to share some ideas with people who are following the project as to this ERC20 native token that I want to create to support the project. I've been doing a lot of research the last couple months into ERC20 tokens, how they're being used to help fund open source projects and new protocols, and trying to figure out if it is a good fit for P2P VPS. And at first I was very hesitant. I didn't really see how it fit, but then I listened to a lot of podcasts by A16Z, the Andreessen Horowitz venture capitalists, and they have some really interesting ideas about how ERC20 tokens will be used to fund open source projects, and that's what got me digging a little deeper and thinking about it. And eventually, I came to the conclusion that P2P VPS is actually a perfect fit for a native token. And so this video is just going to walk over some of the reasoning that led me to this conclusion. So let's get into it. There's a few main points I want to make, and really these first two bullet points are critical in understanding the mission of P2P VPS, because they're both important. And so first, let's talk about permissionless computing. Permissionless computing is this idea. There's like the humanitarian side of it where it's like, it's my freedom, don't tread on me. If I want to rent a server to do whatever the heck I want to do with it, then I should be allowed. And that's, good in its own right. But there's actually a very practical business reason why permissionless computing is important, is that, traditionally we assumed that in the traditional world of permissioned money, you don't think about computers having their own wallets or having their own credit cards, because traditionally only humans have them, because it requires someone giving enough human permission to do that. And now that we're transitioning into this world of permissionless money, other things that you would spend money on become permissionless too, and cloud computing is a perfect application of permissionless money. And so I created a blog post to it's very brief, just to discuss some of these ideas a little deeper. So if you go to p2pvps.org, you can go to the community dropdown, go to the blog, and you'll see this permissionless computing article. And I copied some of the short and long-term applications that I think P2P VPS will be used for, and just talk about this idea of giving a computer program a wallet, so that, say for instance, if you're deploying a new piece of content and it's really popular and the server gets bogged down, you could actually have that server spin up new copies of itself and pay for those copies with cryptocurrency, and that would all happen autonomously and without any human intervention. And so and it would happen as needed. It would be incredibly efficient, and then when the load goes down, that sort of master node could kill off its child nodes and save a little money that way. Also, one of the from a humanitarian standpoint, being able to spin up servers permissionlessly gives people the opportunity to have increased privacy and freedom online by being able to create VPNs and Tor nodes, being able to host content, and giving sort of these 5 billion unbanked people of the world access to cloud computing, like the 2 billion people privileged to be in first world countries have right now. And so I think this idea on the surface doesn't seem that controversial, but when you really dig into it, it's quite revolutionary. So, and I'm quite passionate about it. So this article talks about it a little bit briefly, and that's one important mission of P2P VPS, is permissionless computing. The other important, more business and practical standpoint that P2P VPS that I want to achieve with it is this 5 to 10 year price curve. So I'll give you a sneak peek at this is sort of like a business plan or like an operations manual for the foundation I want to start, and it's basically just going to capture everything that I'm going to talk about in this video in words. But if you go out there and you look at the market leaders, you look at Amazon EC2, you look at DigitalOcean, you look at Linode, you look at Vulture, they're all stuck at this $5 price point. And Vulture has flirted with a $2.50 a month VPS, but they decided to fall back and go back to the $5 price point. So there's this very stubborn price point. So just putting some 4 dots over a 20-year span or a 10-year span, this is what I think P2P VPS could achieve. Is if you're here at year 0, it's $5 a month. That same footprint, which I actually talk about here. So this is an example of what you can get for $5 with DigitalOcean. You get 1 gigabyte of RAM, 1 CPU, 25 gigabytes of storage, and 1 terabyte of transfer of bandwidth. And so if you take that as like a baseline, that's what you can get today for $5. I think that we could have that price in 5 years to $2.50, and then I'll take that price down to $1 a month, and then perhaps even lower to like 25 cents a month. And so this is just speculation. I think it's pretty conservative. I don't think that this is optimistic in any way. And so this is the other main objective of what will become the P2P VPS Foundation, is to sort of focus on cloud computing and focus on disrupting these established incumbents in the cloud computing VPS market and drive the price down to in a way that resembles this curve. So what I'm getting at here is this token would be created and issued by a foundation, like the Ethereum Foundation. We call this the P2P VPS Foundation, and its mandate would be to achieve these 2 goals. And then that raises the question of like token economics, like how does that all work? And that's where Bancor comes in. Bancor, if you go to bancor.network, let me reload this. Okay, looks like their website's not coming up. Okay, they must be having some technical difficulty right now. But they use this program called MetaMask, which lets you spend Ethereum really easily. And of course, nothing's set up right now. But it lets you exchange Ethereum for different ERC20 tokens. And Bancor's whole model is based on liquidity. So they have a smart contract where our ERC20, like the P2P VPS ERC20 token, could be immediately exchanged for a reserve currency, which could be the Bancor's native token. It could be Ethereum. I think it can even be like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So if the foundation pays people in this native token, they can immediately take that token and cash out and get and then from there cash out to fiat currency using a website like Coinbase. And so it immediately provides liquidity for a new token. And the way this works is the foundation would manage token circulation. And it creates this virtuous circle. Is the foundation, because they have the sole ability to create new tokens, they have full control of managing the number of tokens in circulation. So they pay developers in this token, and then the developers, what they're being paid for is to add value to the protocol, to develop this code, and then because the protocol is more valuable, because the P2P VPS software is more valuable, then the price of the token increases because the foundation manages circulation. And so it takes a tech company and sort of turns them into a central bank in a certain regard. And this is pretty much what the Ethereum Foundation has been doing to good success. And this is like the idea. This is the new superpower that tokens unlock is open source projects or foundations that manage open source projects can now have a way of generating and paying developers, even if it's just a token at first, like literally like a figurative token. Even if it didn't have any money, it would be a really quantitative way of keeping track of how much value is being created, who's creating the value, and should hopefully be able to bootstrap uh, this sort of long-term economics to keep an open source project running and paid and growing. So how does this work a little more concretely? Well, so the trick, sort of what I think, so Bancor, if you study them, the first thing you'll learn is this idea behind liquidity and their smart contracts. And I think that's neat. But what I think they was really the most innovative thing they did is the figure out that the price curves don't actually have to be linear. And so this is an example of the price curve I plan on implementing in their smart contract for this native token. And this assumes a target price of 5 cents, and there's sort of a bunch of math how I got to this price point of 5 cents per token, and it's based on the current market of $5 a month for DigitalOcean. It's based on that, but I don't want to bore you with the details. That'll be in the written document when I publish it. But basically, all the Bancor smart contracts have a CW value, the contract or the connector weight, and that can be anywhere from 0 to 100%, and where 50% would be a linear price exchange rate. And what you're looking at here is it's the exchange rate. It's so if you the way their smart contracts work is it's a two-way. It's just like a money exchanger or a bank where like you give them Canadian dollars and they give you US dollars, or you give them US dollars and they give you Canadian dollars. Like that's what I mean by an exchange is this smart contract. So the foundation could pay developers. Developers could put the native token into the smart contract and get Ethereum out or get Bitcoin out. And it also works in the other way. If people want to invest in the project, if they think that this project, they 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 don't need to get permission, they would just buy the tokens directly from the smart contract. They would put in their Ethereum and get this native token out. And that's how renters would get the token to use on the network. So instead of using Bitcoin Cash to rent devices, P2P VPS devices out on the network, like it's being used now, instead everything would switch to this native token. And I've been in talks with OpenBazaar, and they are quickly adding the ability to trade ERC20 tokens on the platform. So that would be another way of selling the tokens. And so all this stuff will work. By the time it's ready to work, by the time I have everything implemented for P2P VPS, I believe OpenBazaar will be ready to trade ERC20 tokens. And so we will be able to continue to use OpenBazaar and continue to uh, uh, rent devices on OpenBazaar just like it's done now, and use this ERC20 native token instead of Bitcoin Cash, which is what we use now. And the really important takeaway on this curve, so this is assuming a 5,000, and what happens is if the token doubles in value from the target being 5 cents, and in fact 0.05, that's 50 cents. I think 0.05 is down here. But anyways, the nice thing about these logarithmic curves is as you zoom in and zoom out, they maintain the same shape, so it doesn't really matter. let's just say this 0.5 is the point we're looking at. If it doubles, then the price starts to go up vertically. Like, it doesn't take very many reserve tokens to drive the price up really fast. And so greed will naturally kick in, and people will if everybody knows what the reserve uh, amount is supposed to be, greed will kick in, and this is when people will start to cash out of the native token. Or the foundation, this would be a good time for the foundation to issue new tokens to capture some of this reserve currency and have it to pay developers, and or for whatever, just to keep the foundation going. That's the easy part. The hard part's down here. If we're not wise with issuing the token, if we just like give too much of it away and people try to cash out too quickly, it'll drive the price down. And what'll happen is, but what's great about this nonlinear curve is that if the price follows this curve and gets all the way down here, it doesn't take very much of very much of the reserve currency to drive the price back up. And so in either direction, the price doesn't vary. It's basically retarded from being driven too far away from this target price point, from this knee. And this is just a quality of logarithmic curves like this. It's just the nature of the math. And so this is an example here. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but so if the target price is 5 cents, when you get up here to half of its value, to 2.5 cents, your thing's pretty much depleted, and you only have to put in let's see, what is this? Like 100 of the reserve tokens is equivalent to like 120,000 of the reserve currency here. Whereas when it's at its target market, that's only a difference of 50 tokens to get 10. Or I guess we're talking about 100 here, so let's talk about 100 here. So that is 500. You cash in 500 of the native token, and you only get 100 of the reserve token. Whereas when the price falls down here, you'd have to cash out 3,000, or you'd have to put in 3,000 of the native token to get 100 of the reserve currency out. So that's the non-linear nature. So this curve punishes people who try to drive the price down. It punishes people who try to drive the price down below this target point, and it makes it really easy for the foundation, if they have some money in reserve, to bring the price up to a level that is still practical to use. It's not important that the price stays right at the target market. It needs to stay kind of in this general vicinity in order to still be practical to be used for commerce, for renting, to be practical for the purpose for which it was created. And then again, like I said, natural greed will kick in if the price gets too high. The foundation can just issue new tokens to drive that price down, capture some of that value, and then put that value back into the foundation to make the software more valuable and continue this virtuous circle. So it's a very innovative idea. The mathematics are very simple, but you can just, like, if you just think about them, it's kind of amazing, all these things that work out. So this is the token economics of this new token that will be issued. This is how it's going to work. Okay, so talked about that. The other thing is these developers. Where are these magical developers going to come from? Well, there's a couple different places where they're going to come from. The one I'm really excited about is Gitcoin. So if you haven't heard of them, it's gitcoin.co, and basically what they've done is they have found a way to combine Ethereum and ERC20 tokens with GitHub. So for instance, if you go to the P2P VPS GitHub repository, you could click on any of these. In fact, let's go to the server. That's probably the most important. And then there's these issues, and this is where when bugs come up or someone finds a bug, they would create an issue, or if a new feature needed to be developed, you'd an administrator like myself would create an issue. And what Gitcoin allows is I could specify. Let me see if I can find a good one here. Um, Okay, yeah, this is a fairly like this is a simple issue. It's very specific. Is the model for devices need a new field in order to store the hash of the OpenBazaar listing in them, and it just doesn't exist yet, and I haven't gotten around to it, and it needs to be there, and it's a pretty small feature. So I could tag this issue with an amount of Ethereum, and then whoever comes and claims this issue and successfully implements it to the specifications I list, which would be better than what's listed here because it would include like things like tests. When they complete it, then the Ethereum would be released and the developer would get paid. And but the great thing about Gitcoin is you don't just have to use Ethereum. You can use Ethereum, but you don't have to just use Ethereum. You can also use any ERC20 token. So we can literally pay developers in our native token directly, permissionlessly, and they don't need to get our permission. I mean, there's a little bit of correspondence that needs to take place just so if they have questions. But it allows literally developers from anywhere to work on a project and get paid for it, and it's very innovative idea that Bitcoin has implemented. So very excited about that. The other thing is as people trickle into the chat room, in fact, there's been a few. I encourage you to go in here and just see kind of what's going on. The whole Docker conversation was pretty lively this last month, and as more dedicated developers trickle into the project, we can transition into more of an hourly paid rate. And this is a website that I'm probably going to rebrand and change. So don't pay attention to the name or the colors or the branding. What's important, but you can try it out if you want to go. You can open an account, ARPIOVN. You can sign in. And this is just a very simple web app I created for time tracking, for accounting. And there's just a couple links. Log your time. You go in here. You can pick a project, pick the type of work you did, the hours you worked, the date, and the description of the work, and it'll all get logged. And then anybody, because I'm logged in as me, I'm only seeing my logs here. But anybody can go to the work reports and see everybody's logs here. And if it's your log, you can click this edit button, edit it. Only you can edit your work. And you can go to these view projects here and go to summaries. So, for instance, I think, yeah, I'm the only one. So far I've recorded 244 hours into the P2P VPS project. But there are other projects that I've had other people participate. So you get this nice pie chart, and I forget what this chart's called, but you can breaks it down, does comparative. But this is the basic idea: is for people who are pre-approved to basically work on an hourly basis on the project, then they'll get reimbursed at $40 an hour, and that dollar amount would be in tokens at a 5 cent per token thing. So whatever $40 an hour is in tokens at 5 cents, that's how many tokens you're going to get per hour. And once a month they'll be paid. So it would be just like money. It would be just like getting paid for work, except that it happens in tokens. And obviously, to begin with, we're going to only do that with developers who are willing to hold the money and don't necessarily need to cash out right away, and are willing to hold for a little while and wait for the price curve to do this. And which it should, because if it's managed well, the foundation controls circulation, we can control the price. And so that's the idea. That's basically the whole idea in a nutshell of how this ERC20 token is going to be created, how it's going to be spent, and how it's going to increase in value.